All right. Questioning everything. With us today is Shara Rosenbalm
Oh,
of Dialexa. Currently. She's building. So Shara Rosenbalm, obsessed with good design, reading books, and making an impact in this world. By any means necessary, from what I'm learning.
that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. We want to give you a round of applause for the courage that it takes to just step out on faith. But I know you've got a lot going on right now. I just want to dive right in because I feel like we need the entire time together to dive into you've got a lot going on. You've got a book you're writing. Let's see. Yes. So the book you're writing, you just recently became a manager of people. I'm pulling
Yeah,
this from memory now.
yeah. There's a lot. I just got my first promotion ever here at Dialexa, not even been here a year. And it was said it can't necessarily be done. Like, hey, you're being a little ambitious, but you know what? Go for it. And I said, all right then. So yeah, there's been a lot of change. I'm leading a project and also responsible for some designers within that project, and so there has been a lot of change that has occurred like within the last month, I would
Hmm.
say. A lot of things, but all good things, and these were the things that I feel like I've been really working towards and wanting for my career. So I'm excited, and a lot of these things are things that I've not really voiced
Hmm.
verbally until recently. I kind of moved through my career with the attitude that, hey, you have to keep your head down, don't make waves, just be happy that you have a job. And then just kind of, taking whatever I get. However, going through the transition into product, it occurred to me that, you know what, if I'm going to do this and step away from something that is comfortable, which is, graphic design, I've been here, I've been in this space, I know what this entails, then I probably should decide to change how I behave. And so that's why I'm doing things that I don't normally do now. And I feel like I'm getting the rewards or reaping the rewards from that. And I'm also trying to pour into other people in the process. So
Hmm. How does that feel?
it feels like a lot of responsibility. It also feels surreal. Like, really? Like, am I qualified to be doing any of these things? Which has kind of been that doubt that has sort of held me back
Hmm.
previously.
Oh, I know.
Um,
We know all about that doubt.
okay. Yes. That doubt made me sit in my first job for like 8 years. There's no growth potential at
Oh.
all. There was nothing beyond the role that I was in. And then the money was great. Nobody who had just graduated was making the money that I was making at that time. And so there were a lot of little things that just kind of made me sit there. I was just really afraid to step out on faith and try to really grow myself and be uncomfortable. I just didn't want to do that until hey, it was time to go.
Now, I think everybody can relate to that. Just being stuck and afraid to take that leap. How do you keep that imposter in check today?
Man, I feel like having someone or people in your life that can hold you accountable, and you have to hold yourself accountable. Hey,
Yeah.
Sharon, we're not doing old behaviors. We're moving in a completely different frame of mind now. And so we got to keep that at the forefront of every decision, every opportunity that comes about. Not every opportunity is the right opportunity, I have to say that. But,
True
when
story.
it comes to making a conscious decision, you're making a fundamental change in how you think and how you behave, your beliefs. And I feel like that has definitely, been the linchpin for me. And then on top of that, I have the people who are very closest to me who believe in me more than I believe in myself most days, that are also holding me to that standard. When I verbally say this is what I'm going to pursue, or these are things I want to do, and they're there to encourage me and say, hey, remember we said we're not doing that. I say, you know what, you're right. And it
Mm-hmm.
just sort of Sure. Okay, let's course correct. Let's get back on track. Let's stay focused, and talk through things. My husband, he's an amazing support system. My best friend, my biggest cheerleader. My mom, whatever I need, she's driving, 45 minutes to my house to help me with my girls so that I can, be there and be wherever I need to be and focus and make the investment and be committed. So my coach is also another person who has been a huge catalyst for me. Just I feel like just ultimately it's just all the relationships around me, those people that really care about you are
Yeah.
those people that are really going to push you to keep going when you're just afraid of what's next, or you're paralyzed by all the decisions that you might need to make. Your support system is where you need to be looking for that support to keep going.
Really glad you share that. So what I hear is that accountability in a community that you surround yourself with that is positive, uplifting, encouraging, motivating, supportive, and helps keep you in check, literally. So
Totally.
I'm understanding that the way to keep the imposter in check is to stay in motion and stay connected.
Absolutely. Once you isolate yourself, you're allowing those voices in your mind
Yes.
that they have. If you're by yourself, there's nothing but time and space and silence for those that volume to be turned up. And so they
Yeah.
don't go away, but you can definitely live with it and
Yeah.
learn how to, run alongside it. It doesn't go away. I still feel a little bit of imposter syndrome every now and then, but I have to look also and be thankful for where my journey has brought me to today. And remember, like that's no small thing. So like let's not disregard the progress.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I I love that you're mentioning that, and that you had a coach. I heard coach in there.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. So you said a support group, a community, but do you believe that people should invest in themselves? Because yeah, you can have the community and the accountability around you, but if you don't have something tying you to that community, it's easy to walk away and isolate yourself. So do you feel like investing in a coach was a good decision to make?
Oh my God, the best investment besides a couple of my tech toys all year was my coach. I
Wow.
found her through this company called Design Department. And
Okay.
so the owner of that company is a former product, designer. She's been in that product space for several years. She worked at Pinterest and a few other big name companies. And so I was like, how much is coaching? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
could do this. But talking it through with my community, my husband, he's like, do whatever you want. I'm here for it. And I'm like, look, I love you for that. I appreciate it. He always gives me the space to make those decisions. And then talking it through with my mom, who is very pragmatic and very what's the word for her? She's just very thoughtful about all decisions she makes. She's always weighing the pros and cons and the consequences of maybe making certain decisions. And she said, if that's the coach, I talked to several coaches, but this program was very specific. And I thought, I was like, my heart, my gut tells me that this is going to be a huge catalyst, and it has been. The self-awareness that you develop in working with a coach, like uncovering your behaviors that you're doing that maybe you don't even realize, it's
Yeah.
when you tap into that, like you're unlocking so much potential. And so
Yeah.
I love it. She's also a good, really dedicated follower to the Enneagram. So I don't
Mm.
know if you know about personality tests. Enneagram is probably my favorite. I'm a nerd, so a lot of people like horoscopes. I like personality tests. So an
Yeah.
Enneagram is my favorite. And it's not putting you in a box. It's just showing you, what your tendencies or habits are, and then helping you like work through that. Like you don't have to be in this box. You can work your way through and be great. You can totally be great. And it's just up to you. So I say that to say the coach has been a huge contributor to my success on top of everything else, I feel.
Do you feel like your life really took off when you took that leap of faith to invest it? Because you said the coach cost. Oh.
It did, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not cheap. Not true.
that's everyone's initial reaction, but especially in our field, the ROI of making this investment is a no-brainer.
Huge. And to talk to somebody who understands what the environment of design, who actually worked in design, big deal. Totally helpful. I mean, my mom can only help me so much, or my husband
Right,
can only understand so much. And so
right.
it's great to be able to tie, that self-awareness back to the work that we're doing and how we're feeling about the work. And then, just also changing behaviors and beliefs and what have you. It's just all interconnected. And so the coach was a wonderful investment.
Mm.
Um, I, I mean, hands down, I do it all over again. I'm actually resuming my coaching, I believe next month. So I said, you know what? I was like, I don't know how to not be coached now. I feel that there's so much value here. So let's keep this going. Let's take a little break and then we'll get back to it.
Yes, yes, it's a game. It's the game of life, and if you're not living it with a coach, be it your higher power or someone or both, right? I'm curious now. So you said that you were in the process of writing a book, and to know that you have your method of battling the imposter, you have your coach that keeps you accountable. I want to know if you struggle with the same thing as most people who are thinking about writing a book. Do you find yourself either avoiding it or letting the imposter take over when it comes time to writing it? And what is your book about?
Mm, okay. So the book is about finding an opportunity within your social system that we'll call work to create change. So, and that's from the bottom up. The original book that I proposed was about, diversity in tech and, how, like, why are we still having this conversation in 2021? We don't know. But instead of just kind of like shaking our fingers at the companies, it's like, well, what are we empowered to do, or what should we be empowered to do at the ground floor, so to speak? Maybe we don't have titles, or maybe we don't have a ton of influence, but what can we do to influence that change? And so I wanted to frame the work environment as a social system. And at the core of that social system is you, the individual.
Yeah.
And so thinking about, okay, well, so maybe, for example, for me, it was, I'm unhappy in my career. So what am I going to do about that? And I had been very passive up until 2019, when I said, okay, I'm going to learn product because that's what I need to be confident going out there and looking for a job. So I took those steps and went forward. But then there's more to it. It might be that maybe I'm happy in what my craft is, but maybe I'm not happy with my pay, or I'm not happy with, whatever those things are that you can control, that are within your space. Then, addressing that. So ways to kind of look at that, but then it goes beyond yourself. So let's say you get yourself straight, you're good.
Hmm.
The next layer of that is the one-on-one relationships. And I also want to press people to look at, okay, well, what kind of coworker am I? Because I want this book to be not just for people of color, or for marginalized groups, but I also want the majority to pick up this book and really look at, like, am I a good coworker? Do I bother to learn how to pronounce people's names? I get called Shara all the time. And I don't
Mm.
correct people just because I'm like, look, I've been doing this for, I was going to say how many years. I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it, but for forever. So just, thinking about those one-on-one relationships, and that could be, from peer to peer, from manager to peer, to yourself, just you and other people that you have around. But how are we being good coworkers to one another? How am I contributing to these relationships that I find or have labeled as important within the work environment? And then from there we go to a slightly larger group. So maybe it's a small group, maybe it's just your immediate team, and it could be your project team or engagement team. What do we have, a culture of safety? Just measuring things in that respect. Or is there an issue on that team that maybe needs to be addressed, or how we interact with each other? Do we need to do that? And it just kind of ripples up all the way into at the company level.
Oh,
And
wow.
so what I hope to do with this book is just provide perspectives from other designers who have had all different types of backgrounds and walks of life, and to speak to their experiences as all of these different layers and maybe how they've influenced change or have seen such. Someone who's very important to me and who's been part of my journey into product, he told me this crazy story about how he took over a whole department. He assumed a leadership role with them, and he began to look at the pay discrepancies between, you know, the folks on the team. And he did the very arduous task of like working with HR to correct that. He said that there was someone who he knew was a shining star. She was a Black African American woman. She was severely underpaid. You had people who were beneath, you know, didn't have the same skill level as her, being paid, you know, 2 times as much as she was, and had a better title. And he just talked to me about how he went through the process of making that change. And, you know, at the company level, it could be a variety of things. And for our company, it's not, we're not huge, but we're, you know, we're over 200 people now. And so it could be that, you know, something that we've all said we wanted was, we want to see pay bands. We want that. And so it's about being able to have those conversations, or, you know, finding ways to understand, you know, what the opposition is thinking, but also, you know, you don't just need to know who's on your side, you need to know the other side too, so that you can understand, you know, maybe where some compromises or some growth can happen. So that's kind of like I'm sorry, I kind of rambled there for a bit, but that's sort of the premise of the book. And so also to address part 2 of that question, which was how am I going to deal, or how am I battling imposter syndrome writing this book? I just knew that they weren't going to take the proposal. I just knew they're going to be like, we're good, like it's fine. But for me, just even the courage to write the proposal, I felt was worth, you know, patting myself on the back. Like it's like this podcast. This is my first one, so lots of courage required there.
Wait, and what?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
No.
I feel like privileged because one day when you're on stages speaking to people about how to transcend and bring self-awareness to this is going to be your first podcast. I'm hearing self-awareness. I'm hearing waking people up.
Yes.
I'm hearing analyzing like where I am in this picture, and like I said, transcending cultures. It's not just for the Black community. It's for anybody that wants to have that awareness, that accountability, to understand where they are and how to advance. I have a similar thing I'm working on with Tracy Kelly right now, the Double Diamond Career Design Workshop. We've been working on it for a few months now.
Nice.
Writing a workbook, and the process has been great together. Writing a book alone is a different process. Now, I have my outline written in questions because we are hardwired as humans to answer questions. So I have a bunch of questions to answer. Ask me how many times I sit down in a month and write. Yeah.
It's intense. I have not started. My official timeline kicks off on July 1st. That is next Thursday. So yeah, I'm every day I feel like, wow, I don't know that I'm qualified to do this. But it's gonna be a collaborative experience because I plan to make it such. And this book is for a book apart of all the publishers ever. I thought I would just write this and self-publish it. No one will see it or buy it. Fine. But I did the thing that I've secretly wanted to do for maybe forever. And but a book apart, I was able to submit that proposal to them, and I'm obsessed with a book apart. I love all of their content, and I've actually got to meet one of the authors, and he was the one that made the connection that led to, you know, where I am now and going into the writing phase. And so they've done everything they can to make me feel like I'll be supported, which is a big deal for me. And also, because I want to include other stories, I'm gonna get to, you know, talk to people as the writing process is going on. So I'm trying to, you know, having this conversation with you made me realize, like, you know what, I'm not going to be in a vacuum. I'm actually going to make this as collaborative as I possibly can, and talking to as many people as possible, because I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. I'm no expert by any means, but they loved the proposal for the book. They loved this idea, and they recognize that we need more voices of color, represented, and also to be heard by the majority. So I'm pumped to be a part of that. It's an honor, a privilege. It's very humbling, and so I want to bring as many people along for this ride as I possibly can. So
this is beautiful. This is going to create ripples in this world, and not just in tech. I feel like this could go even any career path could take these tips that you're giving, because essentially it's it's life tips, life principles. There's something at the core here that you're addressing, not just the surface level stuff like you were talking about. Um, there's so much to unpack here. You said you wrote a proposal for the book. Talk to us a little more about that. What does that process look like? I've never actually heard of that. I was gonna self-publish and write my own. I just
right.
didn't know you could write proposals. How does that work?
So with a book apart, that's how they, accept ideas. And so they've got, I think, like 30 or almost 40 books that they've published. And so they're a very small publisher, but to me, I mean, it's a huge deal because they do an event apart. And then they've got their blogs. I was also able to meet Jeffrey Zeldman, who is very nice, very, very nice guy. And they have their event. I mean, they've been doing a conference like 10 years now, or over 10 years now. So when I connected with the author that I met him just last year at Big Design. That was my first speaking event ever. And the day
Nice.
before the conference started, we did a little online virtual meetup. And, he's saying, hi, I'm David Dylan Thomas, and I wrote a book about design for cognitive bias. And I was like, wait a minute, I literally put your book in my cart yesterday. The only reason I hadn't bought it yet was because I wanted to make sure I didn't want to buy any more books. And I bought 2 other books too. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about your writing process. And, he took me through the very specific process he went through with the book apart. And it was kind of similar to what he did for me. Somebody said, hey, I love the content that you're focused on. And he's all about unpacking the biases that we carry into design, and also just in working together, and how do we unpack that. It's such a good read. It is one of my favorite books that I read last year. I have a lot of books.
Wow.
We could spend a whole hour talking about that. And so
Yeah, you're into books.
I'm obsessed. I will read as much as possible. I've been really busy lately, so I'm kind of reading, but not really. But I digress. So he was asking what my idea was, and when I shared it with him, he said, "Oh my God, they need that." And he said, "Do you mind if I make an introduction?" And I said, okay. And he said, you don't have to submit a proposal, but he said, even if you write the proposal and don't submit it, that the proposal, the way they structure it, is designed to make you think about everything. How are you going to
Ooh.
market this book? Who is it for? How are you going to promote? Like, no, for real, how are you going to promote the thing? Because they're going to provide so much support up until a point. And so you also, you can't just expect them to, just carry you through after it's written and published and all of those things. And so I loved going through that process because it really made me think. I mean, I had to provide an outline in addition to just, who is this speaking to, what are the goals of this book. And so it was a really insightful process. I felt more prepared to go into it. So I've got this great outline, and now I'm just gonna go and just let it be, just let it happen.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and extract that outline from you. That is awesome. You said it was your first speaking gig was at Big Design?
Yes, which is another, yeah.
You just take leaps, don't you? She don't take no baby steps. She just says, I'm going for the gold.
Well, the crazy thing was, so the Big Design, which is, a Dallas-based conference about design, is actually run by the person who created the UX certificate program at SMU, Brian Sullivan, and Cassini Nazir. And so I went through that program last year as the pandemic happened. And at the end of it, Brian approached my team about doing he was like, I haven't announced this yet, but I'm gonna have an extra day of talks. And he asked if our group wanted to submit our case study, and present that work. And so one person that was in our team decided that she was going to pursue project management. And so she was out. She just wasn't comfortable. And then it just left me and one other teammate. And so we just said, we know if we don't do this, we'll regret this. This is the opportunity he's giving us. And so we went for it. And when we were talking about what do we want to talk about, I'm like, why can't we just talk about how imposter syndrome is hard? Like, this shit is difficult. So why can't we just talk about that? And she's like, yep, we're doing it. And so, that was our first talk ever. Now, had Big Design been in person and had it not been for COVID-19, there is no way I'm getting on a stage ever. I'm sorry. I say that now, but still, and I've done several events since for speaking engagements, and it's rough every time. It's my heart's in my stomach. Yeah, I mean, I'm sweaty, all of the things that happen. But it was
spaghetti.
Right, mom, every single time. And people are like, I don't believe you when you say you're shy. I'm like, I really am. But again, I just to be able to meet everyone that I got to meet, to be considered for such an opportunity. Again, I go back to gratitude. Just, I just feel like God has allowed all of these intersections and these chance meetings to happen. And Brian is somebody who he's written a book too. Like, he's been somebody I can still go to. It's been a year. And just, I feel like he's been a huge support and cheerleader on my behalf. And I've sent several people since to the program at SMU, because I mean, they really do care about each and every person that goes through that school. If you care about, really making the change and learning the craft, then they're going to give you that same support that they gave to me. So
yes, they are excellent. Brian is actually one of my mentors and friends.
Get out.
Yeah. So my story is similar to yours. There's a lot of serendipity and some divine moments that you cannot explain any other way. If I was not a believer, I would have no way to doubt anymore with the way my journey turned out. I made a comment on LinkedIn that was a little racy.
Okay.
But it was something about UX is not stakeholder experience. User experience is not stakeholder experience. I was thinking of the UX.
I love that. Oh my God, I love that.
Right? It's not about the hippo. So I said something about SX, and then I was like, and not even the good time, the good kind. And I looked at it and I was like, you know what? This is either going to make or break my career. And either way, I don't care anymore. And I posted it and I went to sleep. And my wife was like, you just posted that? And literally the next day I wake up and the comment that Brian left was, hey, Greg, I like your comments. Let's do lunch. And that's where the relationship began. So I can attest to Brian Sullivan, Cassina Nazir, like the heart that is in that program. You can tell. Even at Big Design, like I volunteered 2019 Big Design, the last one that was in person. I was door greeter, and I had immersed myself into the culture to the point where I'm the person that checks everyone in, and everyone's like, "Hey, you're the LinkedIn guy," and I'm like, "Huh? I just coined a name. I'm the LinkedIn guy. Okay."
People know you. Somebody downstairs before I came up here to do this podcast was like, I've seen him on YouTube. I have watched the podcast. I'm like, well, Pompidou was just on it. It was like he's just a few feet away, and I'm like, it's like this guy knows everybody. Everybody. You know everyone.
The other name was Network King. Networking King. Network King. The Network King. I just love people. Like, I don't know if I should tell the listeners this, but I think they're seeing the pattern. Me and Shara, this is the first time we've spoke and met in virtually person.
Yeah.
But we've been trying how long? For like about a year to get in touch, because Misty, Creation, double M&M Creations, is it I think she calls it Creations, not M&M, but she made the shirt.
Yes, you posted the shirt, and I was like, I love this, before I was a graphic designer, no shade to graphic designers, but I was just feeling very regular,
Yeah.
like the little person showed. But then, like, as a product designer, like, yes,
Yes, I'm a
other
dabbing unicorn now.
right?
Okay. Which reminds me, Misty says she still needs a picture of you in the shirt.
She does. I owe her that. I've lost some LBs, some quarantine LBs
Okay.
have left me. I will give her the picture.
High
So
five, girl. I've lost some LBs too, and I am ready to sport whatever.
I'm not
So,
there, but work on it.
she said, not yet, not yet. But you said, we were talking before, you've got, so with all you have going on and all that you're doing and all that you're giving back and these giant leaps you're taking, there's 3 kids in the mix. How do you find balance in this chaos?
It's called knowing when to knowing when I need to just stop and be present in the moment. I'm so blessed to have the 3 little crumb snatchers. I call them crumb snatchers. I have all kinds of names for them, but I love them to pieces. But really, I feel like a lot of my hustle is driven by what I want for them. I don't need them to go and do everything that I did and then some, but I do want them to know that they are young Black women. There are the system is rigged against them, but they don't have to settle for what society just has given us over the past, like over the course of our lifetimes. So
Yeah.
I want for them to know, like, what, my mommy got a master's degree as a single mom. My mom did this, my mom did that. I want them to know all of the things and feel like they're empowered to do whatever they want to. My sister, she got her nursing degree as a single mom. Well, she was married, but her husband was, deployed. And so she,
wow.
right, with 3 very small children, she got her nursing degree. And she told me, if I can do that, you have no excuses. At the time, I had no kids, and I've never forgotten that. I said,
wow,
there can't be anything harder than trying to, better yourself and take care of 3 small kids in California without your family. And so, I feel like it's just so nice to have those stories to just like motivate you, just light a fire up under you. Also, playlists help too, because I have very ratchet slash, just bass lines, all of it. Sometimes you just need that extra push, and I'll think about those stories and where she is today. I'll think about what I want for my kids, and it just really drives me. And my husband, he also helps make so much of this possible. My best friend, she comes over during the week. She'll help bathe kids, my help my husband out, whatever is needed. It just, again, I go back to those relationships, and I feel like I need to even do a better job of letting all of these people know how much I love and appreciate them, because they're all making this possible. Everybody's patting me on the back. I said, no, it's not just me. It's every single one of us pulling together to because they believe in me, and I want to give to them too. So
I love how much community is just a part of who you are. Like, you're so humble. It's not about you, and you understand that. You've got that awareness. You make it about the other people. You make it about helping others. And I believe this is why you succeed in whatever you do. I'm impressed, and I knew, like, people, like you say, people know me, they've heard the podcast. That's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. But people have been like, all I've heard from everyone that has heard of your name or mentioned your name is amazing things. Like,
really,
just Pompidou. He referred you to the podcast because he sees you crushing your goals. He looks up to
did
you.
not tell me that
He
at
didn't
all.
tell you that?
No.
Yeah. So when it was about me and I was making this podcast in the beginning, I was just me on the screen talking at people, sounded like mansplaining, and it just felt weird. I don't like to talk to myself as it is, but I don't want to talk to myself in front of a camera for other. It's just weird. So when I made it about people and interviewing, I let imposter syndrome keep me from doing it for so long, and I just jumped back in this last week. in a week.
Wow.
I've done 8 episodes that I have to edit and post. So I think this episode is 8 weeks out from this day. So just so the audience knows, this was recorded June 25th. We're probably in July, August, maybe September now. I don't know. So by then, you will have written your book
I don't know. I
and
may have
published
taken
it.
over Dialexa by then. Everybody, it's a running joke around here. They're like, Shara, you're trying to take over the place. I'm like, I'm just literally just happy to be here, and I'm excited about all the things I can do now. So forgive me
Yeah.
with my enthusiasm, but yeah.
So the question that I added on when I started making this about other people, because I mean, I have to live up to my title, the network king.
True that.
If every person can refer to me to people that they see are high achievers, crushing their goals, those go-getters, the movers and shakers of the world, these are the people that have so much to give, because I imagine this comes from a place of pain, and with you telling me about just the way you take things from people and they stick with you. All
When
great success comes from some sort of pain or some sort of why that's driving you. What do you say the why is that drives you?
whew, it's funny that you say that because I'm on the Enneagram, I'm a 4. And so I'm the romantic, the idealist, the creative.
Yeah,
And so I'm driven by relationships and authentic connection. And
and you show that,
I
yes.
can I have an so again, this is why I love this. I love this because it's really tapped into like, oh, okay, I understand why I do certain things the way that I do them. Or now I understand how I lead or choose to lead in situations. I understand how when I'm healthy and when I'm not exhibiting healthy behaviors. And so to answer your question, that pain I feel like comes from just being misunderstood or not and not being seen at times. And I don't want to be center of attention.
Right.
But yet some of the things that I'm forcing myself to do to get out of my comfort zone in this new chapter in my life kind of say the opposite. But I feel like that the pain comes from, just wanting to do good and wanting to make an impact and just feeling like I'm failing at it, by
Mm,
being complicit or complacent, I guess I should say, in how my career wasn't moving forward or how I'm just making things pretty because, some coworker or whomever I'm designing the thing for is just standing in my cube telling me to do it.
mm,
It felt like that really felt like I'm not, why am I here? Like what is my purpose or how can I take what I love, which is design. I've never seen myself doing anything other than design. Maybe being a homicide investigator because true crime is my jam, but for real, but I'll talk for serious. Um, design, I've never seen myself doing anything other than that. And I'm like, well, how is it that I can do something that I love, but also make an impact on people's lives in a positive
mm,
way? And then when I finally found product, I was like, yes, UX, yes, this
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense. But I didn't move on it right away.
yeah,
That fear of, failure or, can I afford to fail? Just with so many other things happening in life. And so
yeah.
I feel like I'm just kind of driven by the fact that it, I sat in that space for so long and I'm just tired of it. And I really wish that if somebody had shown me this
Mm,
or shown me what it, that if I change how I believe in myself, which I didn't do before. If I change the way that I think and how I behave, that I'm going to see what I hope to see. And I shouldn't try to boil the ocean. Like nobody should ever try to boil the ocean right out of the gate. Like you just can't do that. But it's like, okay, well, what is the greater goal? The greater goal is to do good through design. Well, how can I do that? Product. Okay, so oh my God, where do I start? And so you just take that larger goal and make it digestible, just like any, MVP. We have to, or any just idea for a product. Okay,
yeah,
well, you can't build the whole thing in overnight. You have to break that down into
yeah.
user stories and what does that MVP look like? Okay, then what's next? And so Right now I have my eyes set on manager. I want to be, going after my second promotion ever next year. And so that's very ambitious, but
Yes.
I'm
But
I'm moving the needle. I'm like, okay, now how do I break that down? That seems
okay.
like it's a little extreme, but I just kind of framing things in that way have made it feel a whole lot better.
I love your process. She said, my goals got to have goals
Yeah.
that have goals so that I can reach my ultimate North Star.
Yes.
And the fact that you set that waypoint of where you want to land is the exact reason why you land every time. And it blows your mind, but if you have the formula for success and you apply it, it works anywhere. So having those goals, having that ambition, having that courage to step out and do what you do is the exact reason why you're succeeding. Would you agree with that?
Totally. And I read an article, I think just a week ago, and I should have at least tweeted it, but I didn't. But the thing that really stood out to me was, it was about how to base. It was like, oh, change your life, and I was like, all right, what is this gonna say? The major takeaway I had from that, and I've said this like maybe 8 or 9 times this week since I read it because I thought it was so powerful.
Mm.
And you know why people kind of spin their wheels is because they don't always know what they want. And when you do know what you want, especially in your professional life, then you'll notice you'll start to see opportunities everywhere. It's like when you are going to buy a car and you decide, okay, I want that car, that color. And then
Yeah,
you buy the thing and then you see it everywhere. It's the
everywhere.
same thing. And
Because
so
everyone's copying you, right?
everybody copying you because they didn't have the car before you at all, right?
Mm.
So exactly. And so here at Dialexa, I'm like, man, I feel this to my core because I'm here and now I'm having to say, okay, okay, I almost cussed. I was like, okay, girl, like just chill. Chill out. You can't do everything. And so we need to be strategic about where we're putting our energy. This book, I need to be focused on that. The people that I have been, I'm humble and just honored to be managing and supporting in their journey here at Dialexa. I need to be focusing on them and making sure that they're supported and that they have the tools to be successful, as they're working through their first months. One is an intern, and I'm like, it's my mission in life to make sure that she gets to stay after this internship is over. Like, I would cause a scene if she doesn't. But my point being, that I realize that there are other things I need to focus on, and there are some other relationships or competencies that I need to focus on versus like trying to do everything all at once.
Yeah.
Just, having the awareness to do that. Yes, you're going to see all these opportunities, but all opportunities aren't the right opportunities. I feel like I said that earlier, but I mean, it's really true. Some people
It
just kind of
is.
get paralyzed by all of the options. And I felt like I was for a minute, but thanks to some wonderful conversations with like Sarah Reed this week, Sarah Claridge, we have a million Sarahs, and then there's
Yeah,
me.
y'all do.
We do. We have a lot of Sarahs, but my manager Stephanie, she's amazing. And then just even my peers, just being able to say like, you know what, like I'm excited about everything, but I feel like my excitement is going to lead me to spread myself too thin. And my mentor, he's one of my mentors. His name's Fonz Morris. He works for Netflix. Dopest guy I feel like I've ever met ever.
Nice.
He said to me yesterday, he said, you cannot afford to spread yourself too thin. Like strategy, Shara, like as what you would do with anything else, strategy. And I was like, I got it. It's like, appreciate the reminder. It's just nice to have that like nudge or like, hey, pause when you need it.
Man, that is beautiful. So you're leaving me speechless. I'm usually pretty talkative. I usually have it together. You're answering questions that I usually ask without me asking them, and it's mind blowing. Your drive, your authenticity, you're shy, yet you're so confident.
See, it's this one-on-one. Like, I mean, I know if people will watch this at some point, but I thrive in the one-on-one. Now, if there's a room full of 30 people, I'm gonna act like a chameleon and I'm gonna be up against that. I'm gonna blend in if I can, or find a corner and have that one-on-one because I like those connections. I thrive off of that. So, and knowing that, I know, hey, I'm not gonna be all up front in front of everybody, saying this or doing that necessarily, but the one-on-one relationships are important to me. And I've built some beautiful ones here at Dialexa in the year, virtually, some of them all virtual. So
That's been a challenge for us extroverts. I know Enneagram 4 is not, it's not really an extroverted. I believe I'm an Enneagram 7 or 8. I cannot remember. I know I took it with my wife, and we are exact opposites, and we laughed at the whole thing because everything I thought, she thought the exact opposite.
ooh, I bet you're a 7, and then an 8. That 8 is that really strong personality, very decisive, direct. Those are the people that kind of make me do like this, but because they're just so like they just exude this confidence. So, and then you have a wing also, so it could be that you'll pick up a few of those tendencies from the wing number that you have. So I'm a 3 wing, so I'm an ambivert. I'm a little more outgoing. I'm very ambitious. And the number 3, I believe, is a achiever. And so, and then also you go to a number in strength or in growth, and then in stress. So I go to a 1 in growth, which is a perfectionist. And in stress, I'll go to a 2, where I might become kind of needy. And it's almost like I don't know anything anymore. I forget everything, or have no clue at that moment. And I'm like, yep, totally see it. So I love that tool as a way to just kind of develop that baseline self-awareness. And then I'm reading the 9 types of leadership. Oh my God. If you are a people leader, or you want to be, or even just working with others, and you want to have a better, working relationship, definitely pick up that book. It's a good one.
What was it again?
The 9 types of leadership.
9 types of leadership.
And it's based on the Enneagram. It goes through the whole thing. And it's like, well, what if your manager's a 9? Or what if your manager is a 4? How to deal with them. And then they also have excerpts from managers in real life in corporate America who are those numbers, and just kind of sharing,
Wow.
where you can do too much of a good thing, like what your strengths are in the workplace setting, and what maybe some of your opportunities or things to be aware of. And so I'm having a really good time with that book right now.
It sounds like awareness is a big staple in your life, like a foundational tool. Would you say that more people need to get self-awareness?
Yes, like immediately. If I look back on my earlier career where I've had some moments that I'm not proud of, some, where immaturity played a part. Just I was not a strong 4 at that time. So when I look at now understanding the Enneagram and looking at just kind of the things that I would do in stress, um, I'm not proud of all of those moments. I'm just not. So I'm like, man, if I had been more in tune with why I behave the way I behave, and actually at that job is when I began to learn about Enneagram, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. But there was still, also just with time comes more self-awareness, and the relationships that you cultivate too, and sometimes the relationships that you damage will really amplify that self-awareness or the level of it. So
Especially when you've been made aware, because once you're aware, once you know, you can't unknow.
mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned gratitude earlier. Having this self-awareness, doing these personality tests, digging into who you are to know the authentic person that is inside so that you can show up as the real Shara wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that now, looking back, you're grateful for these, even though you're not proud of them, you're grateful for what they taught you?
100%, because it makes me appreciate the growth that I've had now, even just from 2019, that I was on maternity leave at the end of the year. It was November, and I decided to, like, I just did my performance review before I left. I was so unhappy and unfulfilled, and I'm like, I spend too much of my life at this job or at a job to not be happy or feel like I'm not contributing. It is
True that.
it's just unreasonable to just accept that.
Yeah.
And so making that decision was a huge catalyst. And it made me grateful for that time that time to be still. And yes, I was, tending to a brand new baby, but that time to be still, I'm grateful for that because it showed me, okay, these are the things that are possible. And yes, I am scared, but one of my favorite quotes is, if every time you get scared, take a step forward. Lionel Richie. Don't, yeah, don't.
It's in your article. I read your article
It
minutes before. Yes, I love that. That's the first thing that stood out to me, and I was like, "You're speaking to my heart here." Mine was "Do one thing every day that scares you," Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's evolved for me. I don't know if your motivation evolves as you take it and make it your own. It turns into something else that could be your very own quote. So mine is, "If anything scares you, you got to face it head on so that nothing stands in your way."
100%, 100%. It's the fear is probably the biggest polarizer that I think it polarizes us, a lot of us. And so there's a lot of things that I'm still scared of, but I'm like, but look, when you move through that fear, plus God didn't give any of us a spirit of fear.
Go
But
on, preach, girl. Go
look,
on and preach.
let me reel it in for a second. But when you move through that fear, and even if it's a small thing, that's why I say break those goals down into something smaller. Going into UX and product was terrifying. I'm like, I am not qualified for this. I didn't move on that want or desire for 5 years almost.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, I sat there. I was like, well, I'm interested in it, but I just had all the excuses as to why I can't do this. I don't have time. I don't have the budget. I just had a baby. We just bought a house. We just, whatever, all the things. So I just sat on that desire. I took a different job and I was happy for a little bit, but I'm like, I keep changing jobs, but I'm still unhappy. So when are you going to make a fundamental decision to, step out on faith, move through this fear of going into UX and then just making it happen? And since then, I haven't looked back. So, I mean, I have looked back. I look back in, like I said, gratitude,
In
be
retrospect,
grateful.
yes.
Right. Because, and two, there are times when I feel like I'm not where I should be. I have friends who are art directors or just, they've really established themselves well, but this is my path right now. And everybody that I'm encountering along the way, which I hope I'm having a positive effect or impact on their lives, even if it's on a small scale, and in some cases, hopefully a greater scale, even if there's just one person, then I'm doing what I've set out to do. And
Mm.
keeping them encouraged and empowering them to believe in themselves and move forward, because I believe in a lot of the people that I come across, like there's just so much talent and ability out there. So, you know,
Absolutely.
I
You've
mean,
got such a big heart.
well, thank you. I mean, I look at it as though like this just feels natural.
Yeah.
Um, so I love being a people manager. People are like, it's like, do I really want to do that? And here we don't look at, leading people or being a manager as, okay, well, you got to do what I tell you to do. Like my direct reports are on different projects, so they do different things. I said my goal is to support you, be your cheerleader, and just cheer you, get you where you want to go. I mean, I consider myself an accomplice. Whatever goals you want, I'm that accomplice. We're not partnering. We're, you know, partner in crime. Like we're gonna, hit the ground running. Whatever it is that you want to do, you set the direction, and we will drive. Like
You're
we will
not
get
above, you're beside.
right. Yes, and I feel like it's been a great experience so far. It's only been, I think, barely coming up on a month that I've had reports, but I went from having, just being design support on a project to design lead, having a report and then another report. And then the promotion happened as well. So it's just been a awesome experience so far. And that just goes to show that fear that I had, even just interviewing and applying here, I just was like, they're not gonna hire me. So it was like, whatever, interview practice. It's been 3 years. I need the practice. And I mean, it just, again, just so much gratitude for where I landed. And then the timing is just, it's everything. It's God's timing, not mine. Right. So.
I 110% agree. Yes, yes, all in his time. You you said so much, and I had so much to say while you were talking, right? But I've been reading this book, Articulating Design Decisions, and I'm
Mm.
on the part about listening. And I've learned to stop listening to respond and start listening to understand. But I'm still processing everything you said, but you're doing so much. You're moving so fast. You're helping so many people. Is there a career strategy here that you would how to put this? Is there something you could give to those that are looking to advance in their career? Is there something you can give them looking back on your career strategy so that they can do this? Oh, wait, or are they going to have to wait for the book?
Oh no, I'll give it to y'all for free right now. Okay. This piece though. Um, and everybody's experience is different. So I want to preface what I'm about to say with that. Um, and so reflecting, which is a fourth thing, reflecting on my own experience, that I couldn't understand why I was so unhappy. And so in my career, and there were a few things like on the surface. I mean, I changed jobs several times, but then, and I'd be happy for a little bit, but then, I'm back to feeling like I did before. And so I think that moment for me is when I figured out what my why was, like what drives me, like what at my core is part of my, aligns with my values and is part of my beliefs, and what is missing from that I am not getting from my career now. And when I figured out that because I'm not helping anybody, somebody's just saying, hey, make this pretty. And it's like, no, I want to be a strategic partner, no matter what industry that I'm supporting. So if it was, I formerly worked at a commercial real estate firm. And so I wanted to do more than just, oh, here's your pitch proposal, bye, have fun, you're going to sell this thing. But how are we effectively helping people, just being a little bit more in touch with the work that I'm doing and how it has a greater impact, was when I learned, I was like, duh, okay. So it's like, okay, girl, so we're gonna do this US program or what? Like, are we gonna do this? Okay, we're doing this. And I was like, that's how you get there. So
Yeah.
that aha moment there.
So the aha moment was questioning everything, is what it sounds like. You have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I love it. What is one question that you think everybody should be asking themselves?
Mm. If you could look back at where you are right now, in 10 years, if you could look back from where you are right now, what would you regret? What is missing?
This
And then what are
sounds.
you gonna do to change it?
Oh, if you could look back on today in 10 years, what would you regret and what could you do to change it?
Yes. There was a quote that I came across in an Inc. Magazine article, and the CEO of Google, he was talking about, several questions that his mentor was pushing him to explore. And one of those questions was, what ties have you broken this week? And when he says ties, he's not talking about, relationships or people. He's talking about um, what bondage are you breaking that's
Mm.
preventing you from moving forward. I was just like, I can't even deal. This is just too
Oh,
good. If and he asked, he said he would ask himself that every single time they met, and I was like, I love this. Like, what old
wow.
habits, what things are you holding on to that don't behoove you, that don't propel you forward?
You know what? Now that you mention that, I remember my first interview where I broke through from the restaurant industry to corporate world in tech. There was a guy, Jason Linwall. He asked me a question in his office that has never left my mind. And he said, how do you manage your vices? And I feel like that's a similar question. How, what is it? What stronghold or what tie have you broken?
Yes, strongholds. It's another way to put it.
It's, it's so important because I don't think we realize that we put ourselves in a hamster wheel.
Hmm.
And it's just the way the body works. Like our brain is meant to automate so that we don't have to think and we can survive in the wild. But we are no longer in the wild, and this reptile brain still operates the exact same as if we are hunters and gatherers. So to be able to hack that with questions, this is what I live for.
Hmm. And
Changing the world one question at a time.
right, and you're not gonna answer every question overnight.
No.
I was asking myself these questions for months, maybe even I would even say think it's safe to say like several years until it finally, I think being still and yes, being at home with a baby who was mostly sleeping in just that quiet time, I felt like, okay, that this is it. This is the time to make moves. And I prayed, whatever that thing is that just kind of keeps you centered and not everybody is religious or prays or what have you, but for me, I had to pray my way through that fear, and then I had the support of everybody around me. That was just the beginning of what has been just such a rewarding journey. And I really do hope that I can continue to keep making moves. I'm definitely going to keep making moves. These guys are hilarious around here. They, like I said, they joke about, like, are you trying to take over the company? I'm like, no. And then they were like, hey, we have a recognition channel. And today or I think earlier in the week I got two, and then I got another one today. And they're like, we should just change the title of this channel to recognitions for Shara and then everybody else. And they did. They changed it. I took a screenshot of it and I'm like, why is this happening? I'm like, can I die now? This is boring. They're like, they're gonna make you a gift by the end of the day. And I'm like, I really don't want I don't want it to, but
That is hilarious.
I say that to say I totally feel like I am in a unique position to give to other people what's been given to
Yes.
me. The UX community is just so warm and accepting. This is so not like graphic design. Not saying that it has improved, but when I started being a graphic designer, like when I was in school, getting my undergrad and even my master's, it just was so competitive and cutthroat. Like nobody was,
Yes.
sharing like, hey, how are you handling this? Or, what are your methods for that? Like it was just, every man, woman for himself. And, stink eye at conferences. It's like, oh, we're all together, but like really we all see each other as competition. But UX
Mm-hmm.
is so different, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, which was terrifying to me. And I'm like, nobody's gonna want to talk to me or tell me about their experience as a UX designer. Girl, please. It
Are you kidding? Like, I felt the exact same way. And
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, I don't want this interview to end. I want to continue talking. I want a 2 hour show, but
I mean, we can keep going. So
I'm all for that idea. Um, the only thing is I have to pee.
hey, you know what? That's important. I went before. I was like, I've been drinking water all afternoon. I'm gonna go before. So
It's okay. I'm gonna hold it because it's worth it. It's worth it. So I'm hearing these principles. There's principles at the core of everything. I come from the belief that the world has always been and will always be what it is. There's no new ideas under the sun. At the core of every book that they're selling you, every workshop they're promoting, every banner ad you see, it's either the six human needs, the laws of the universe, or spiritual principles at the core: honesty, acceptance, faith. I'm, I believe the book The Secret was just about faith. And I didn't even have to read it. I said all that to say, I think that you are going to be really successful. Continue to be really successful. You're already there. But that humility that you exude, the questions that you ask yourself, the support that you surround yourself with, I really hope that everyone listening and watching has gotten something from this that can uplift them and push them beyond that barrier of fear that's again, a mile wide, a mile high, but it's only paper thin. And once you break through it, what is it? It's just muscle memory.
Yep. And you
It's
just,
just
yep, you just
jet
got to
flex.
keep doing it and pushing forward. And so I really wish that someone, or I really wish it was revealed to me sooner. But again, like I say, I try not to get hung up on where I think I should be or what title I should probably have by now, because you don't have to have titles to be a leader or influence change,
Yeah.
whether it be within yourself or with others. And so, I mean, look, I'm just gonna keep doing it. The things that are making me uncomfortable, writing this book is one of them. Gonna keep doing that. Leading people, I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm totally incompetent, or I'm a helicopter mom or whatever. And they've just been, I mean, I'm privileged and honored to be able to be part of their path here. So I'm just going to continue to do what I can do. And, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to stumble, I'm sure, but you can't let those moments stop you from, keeping that same energy going forward. So,
Amen. I did not know we was going to get a sermon today,
I didn't
but
know
I
I was
knew I knew there was going to be I didn't know. I didn't know there was nothing that gave away that you were a preacher.
same. We're both just finding this out then. If that's true.
And I knew from all the times we've had to reschedule because life happens, that
Yes.
when this happened, it would be the exact time it needed to happen. And what was needed to be revealed would need to be revealed. I have a couple resources I want to offer you for writing.
Yes.
I can't think of it right now, the exact name of the group. I want to say it's Writing for Catalysts, but it's within the Catalyst constellation. Tracy Lovejoy and Shannon Lucas started this from a book they wrote called Move Fast, Break Shit, Burnout.
Ooh.
I love it. They're out of San Francisco. They have this community that they built. If
Mm-hmm.
you're all about community and relationships, I suggest you get into
Yes.
what it's called, the galaxy. So the Catalyst
Ooh.
Constellations. There's I want to say it's catalystconstellations.com. I'm going to put all the stuff we've talked about, that you like, the Enneagram. I'm going to
Yeah.
put that in the comments or in the description so that you can take a look for yourself. We'll probably plug our coaches.
Oh my
uh,
God. Yes. Ala
yeah,
Weinberg, love you. You're amazing.
James Hilliard, Jessica Cosine, or Cosine. I have a life coach and a business coach. So girl,
All the coaches.
I just want the growth, you know?
Right.
So I know that amazing people know amazing people. We're the sum of the five people we spend most of our time with. Do you know of two people that you would love to see on the show that you know are crushing their goals in life?
Mm. I feel like I gotta say my manager, Stephanie Vida. Freaking love her. She taught me, or made me realize, that as an African American woman, I did not know how to negotiate. And then she unpacked all these other layers for me. She lived in South Africa for a bit. She worked at a couple of incubator startups, venture capital. Oh my gosh, brilliant, total product expert. I'm, I mean, totally fangirling over her right now, but for real, like, for me to join the company, and then the second day of having met her, I said, "Hey, girl, I'm trying to get to senior like as soon as possible." She was like, "All right, let's get that shit." And here, look, hey, she delivered. She supported me through the whole thing, and I have learned so much from her. And she's just a wonderful soul. Like, if you've enjoyed talking to me, wait till you meet her.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Like, my heart has done some things during this. You've been tugging at my heartstrings, so I know when people listen and watch, they're going to have the same emotional reaction because,
I hope so.
I mean, we know right now that the marginalized groups, the people of color, our people, especially Black women, are fighting for just equality at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Just let us get to the baseline.
Right.
And then there's there's people like you who are not just at baseline, that are running up the hill and still looking back, trying to figure out who else can I help. That is the part right there that's going to take you places. So Stephanie Vida.
Mm-hmm. So Stephanie Vida. Wow, I have a lot of thoughts on who else you could talk to. There is a Ladrian Goods, who is
Ah,
you
I
know her.
love it. I love it.
You know her. You know everybody.
Yes.
Freaking Aladrian keeps that, like, she has a fire in her like I have never seen in anyone. And I met her at the same event that I met Pompidou at, which was the Dallas Black UX event that happened just before COVID shut us all down. And
I was there.
were you there?
Yes.
Get out.
Yes.
I was in the front. I was sitting in the front row. So I wasn't sitting at the same table as her, but I sat at the table next to her. And man, that event that gave me such fire and energy. Oh my God. And I met her. I was like, I like her. And when I see what she's doing on LinkedIn, the things that she does at Intuit, I'm trying to get her over here. She will not come. She will not come to Dialexa. But because she's happy where she is, and they're giving her the same great growth opportunities. And that's how I feel about being here. So I was like, all right, I gotta respect it. But if you ever,
Yeah, if you want to cross over, things
if you
start.
yes, I was like, you can always come over here. So Aladrian Goods, I would love to see her speak to her path and her journey. I feel like she's somebody that a lot of people would like to hear from.
Absolutely.
Portia Obing is another person you could talk to. You said two. I probably have like 10. I'm sorry.
That's cool. I will take them all.
So Portia Obing, she is a LinkedIn and social media strategist. I love her energy, and she did a Creative Mornings talk, and that's where I came across her, and she dropped all the gems. And I was like, wow, these are great tools that she's giving to people. She came to one of my events. I got to speak for General Assembly Dallas, and it was a national event, which was crazy. That just happened out of the blue. And she came and supported, and I was throwing out the tips that she shared. I reached out to her and said, can I share the tips that you get? Because like, they were really freaking good. They were so good. Portia Oping, she will school you. If those of you looking for a job, those of you who are trying to develop your brand and your presence, she is an expert in that space. I definitely, when I get ready, I want to hire her to do an audit and, help me get my LinkedIn presence where I want it to be. And so I like her. Fonz Morris is another one. Alfonso Morris. He is I believe he's a principal designer at Netflix.
Oh man, this is getting good.
Look, I could keep going. I love Fonz. I met him for my birthday, which was in March. My husband was like, well, what do you want? I'm like, I already got what I wanted. You let me buy a new watch, whatever. I'm good. He was like, no, for real, what you want? And I was like, all right. Well, there's this workshop, and maybe I want to take it. I was like, but it's not cheap. It's several $100s. And he was like, okay. Well, he's like, well, because I was like, the cost was gonna go up the next day. So he bought me this workshop, and I went to it as a career strategies workshop that he did through a program called Rethink. So if you've not heard of Rethink, it's a really cool program, and they really focus on career development. They have a really cool platform, community space that you can engage in, but they also do a mentorship program. I went to this workshop, I was obsessed, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to see a Black guy like in doing great things. And he's a self-taught designer as well. He worked at Coursera. He had his own business a couple of times. And so for him to be at Netflix, I feel is just a wonderful opportunity. They're really lucky to have him. And I went to an event he had yesterday even. And I said, anything that he does and I got extra coins, I'm going to support him. He has been a huge, he's again, just, the momentum, he just keeps me motivated. And I'm excited. Netflix might be the only company I would ever leave Dialexa for, but that's like a very strong might because I am so happy and love it here. Yeah. But my point being, Fonz got gems, okay? He will come in here and give everybody all the goods. He has an amazing backstory. And so I think if he could be on here, I think a lot of people would benefit from it.
I am so excited about this. If you're talking about Fonz's fire, and I know Aladrian Goods is fire. Listen, I met Aladrian and Melody Ramey at the exact same time. We have a picture of all three of us together. Aladrian was the first to land her job. I
Mm,
was next. Melody is still looking to get in. The dreaded portfolio just it keeps us in that fear. But
yeah.
Aladrian, I when I say you can feel her,
Yes.
that girl is fire.
110%. Talking about have a call with her, and then it's just like, I'm
You're pumped.
you are ready to go. Like, it's like, where does that come from? She's just so electric, and she's just so humble and intelligent, and she just brings so much to I'm like, dang, I feel like I need to be paying you for linking up with you. And it's harder now
Right?
because she's so busy. She's on Clubhouse doing
Yeah.
her thing, and she's
Yeah.
involved in so many aspects, and she's works in very close proximity to the head of product at Intuit, James Helms, I
James
think is
Helms.
yes.
Hmm.
I feel like when I see her, I see him too, and I love that. I love that he is attuned to her potential and her ability. And he seems, from what I see, he seems invested in her
Yeah.
success. And I'm like, if every company behaved that way, if everyone did the same thing, like, I feel like the disparity between, designers of color and those opportunities would be, a whole lot smaller. So,
And I know just like the culture from Apple and Google bleeds into the world, I know that if we can do it in our business, in our field,
mhm.
it will bleed into other fields because this is contagious. It's something, and as designers, if we're creating this kind of culture, we're going to want the world to have this culture. So we're going to design something to bring it there anyway.
True that.
I brought up, so funny, I don't know if you saw, Aladrian posted about the black women, the fact that she was the only black woman at Intuit, the only
Mm,
black designer, and someone had brought that to her attention, and that sparked her to want to do something about it. Well, there was a post she put out on LinkedIn, and you know me, you're getting to know I'm a little goofy, so I put does a she was saying if there's any black women designers that need a job, Intuit is here for you. I was unemployed I'm not unemployed. My contract with PayPal is up next Wednesday. By the time
mm.
people hear this, I'll be in my role at Marriott. But at the time, I was still looking, so I just ventured out to make a joke. Does a black man with beautiful long hair count? I got attacked on that post, asked to delete it, and it just became something so much bigger than it needed to be. And I
Mm.
tried to explain myself, and I should, a wise man once said nothing at all. I should have just left it alone.
Sure.
But Eladrian, when I talk about the fire, or we talk about her fire, her passion, I feel like y'all match energies. I reached out to her. I said, "Am I in the wrong?" She's like, "You brought the heat on yourself with the way you responded on some things, but I'll get on there and I'll, calm things down." She's just so quick with everything.
Hmm.
It's like you can't talk about an idea. You can't talk about an idea around a designer and it not get implemented. But with her, it's like just expedited.
I
So
mean, she's like lightning fast. So
yeah,
I'm totally here with you on that because I've seen her do it as well. She's just a joy to be around and interact with.
and I know that. So I said all that to say, I'm making a circle. I promise. If Fonz and Eladrian, if that they're you refer, if that's who you're referring, I know that Portia and Stephanie must match that energy as well, and we've got some fire episodes coming up for y'all, just based on this.
Yes.
Shara, I want to thank you for coming on Question Everything.
Thank you for having me.
This has been an absolute delight, and I want to take my break to go pee and continue this conversation after we hang up, if you're okay with that, or
Yeah,
after we stop the recording.
sure.
Um, I'm I'm taking donations. I'm going to put this in the description, but I've decided that 25% of what every dollar I get, 25 cents goes to One Tree Planted, 25 cents to Mental Health America until something else comes to my awareness. These are the two charities I'm choosing to give to. The other 50% keeps this rolling and going so that we can continue to question everything and change the world one question at a time. Question everything. Everything?
Everything.
Everything. I'm gonna start including that into the script before, just so people know to be ready for it. Because I want to put
No, it's
together
all
a
good.
huge collage of everyone saying everything. That would be amazing.
I love it.
Until next time, remember, if anything stands in your way, face it head on so that nothing holds you back. See y'all next time.